Simone Schmidl was the next body to be found, followed by the German backpackers Gabor Neugebauer and Anja Habschied. All the victims had been shot or stabbed to death. And that's how...
Drones arrive in Sydney for the first State of Origin. Good evening. A 50-year-old man is being questioned tonight in Sydney about the backpacker murders. He was arrested in a huge overnight operation in the Campbelltown area, and since then he's been charged with threatening a hitchhiker in 1990. The arrest led to a new search of the Belanglo State Forest near Bowral.
In simultaneous raids, they struck across the country. Up to 300 heavily armed police readied themselves for the swoop. After the pre-dawn briefing, teams of police were sent out from here at Campbelltown Police Station. Their targets, 3 separate addresses in the southwestern Sydney area. In convoy they travelled, ambulances on standby for any trouble. At the same time in Goulburn, busloads of officers were shipped out from the police academy, their job to renew searches of bush in the Southern Highlands. By dawn, a breakthrough. The main target in this morning's raid, a house just behind me here in Cinnabar Street at Eaglevale, where a 50-year-old man was arrested. Heavily guarded, the former truck driver was sped back to Campbelltown Police Station. There, detectives from the Backpacker Murder Task Force began questioning him. As that interview got underway, police in the Southern Highlands began searching properties thought to be connected to the man. At Hilltop, police dug up the backyard of a home looking for clues. In rugged terrain surrounding Wombian Caves, the hunt for leads continued.
Could take 2 days, could take more. We're here to do a job and we'll stay here until we do it.
At Guildford in Sydney, this home was also searched, possible evidence taken away for scientific examination. A rifle and a samurai sword found during the raids were rushed to the command post at Campbelltown for tests. Back at Eaglevale, detectives had sealed off the arrested man's home, while scientific police took photos of his 4-wheel drive. Neighbours were stunned by the morning's raid.
They had the next door neighbour out on the ground, had a shotgun to his head.
Others described the arrested man as quiet and gentle.
They kept pretty much to themselves, you know.
Chief of the Murder Task Force, Superintendent Clive Small, also inspected the house.
No, I've got no comment on any aspect of the operation at this stage.
Late today, the arrested man was charged over threatening a British hitchhiker with a gun at Berrima in 1990. It's alleged he fired at her when she escaped. He's also been charged with armed robbery.
That offence occurred on the 25th of January 1990 in an area south of Berrima. He is currently bail refused and will be appearing at Campbelltown Court tomorrow morning.
Simon Boda.
Today's news has already travelled around the world. The families of the Belanglo victims expressed relief that there's a breakthrough in the investigation.
Over 4 years, the forest of Belanglo had hidden a sinister secret. The bodies of 7 young backpackers, some buried, some hidden under leaves and branches, all brutally murdered. Bushwalkers found the first bodies in September 1992. They were English adventurers, 22-year-old Joanne Walters and 21-year-old Carolyn Clark, missing from King's Cross 4 months earlier. But they weren't the first victims. A year later, the murder investigation turned into a hunt for a serial killer. In October 1993, Victorian backpackers James Gibson and his girlfriend Deborah Everest were found in shallow graves only a few hundred metres from the first bodies. The couple disappeared in 1989. Then in November last year, the true horror of the bush graveyard was revealed. 3 more bodies. German backpackers Simone Schmidl, missing since 1991, and young couple Gabor Neugebauer and Anja Habschied. All victims were stabbed repeatedly. 2 were also shot and strangled. News police may have found the serial killer helped ease some of the torment for the parents of Carolyn Clark.
Very relieved, certainly, yes. Just a great feeling of relief, obviously. It finishes things off, we hope.
The parents of Joanne Walters anxious to know more.
Well, I can't feel anything at the moment. We just go see how things develop.
For the victims' families, today's events may at least piece together some of the tragic puzzle. The only question they hope will be answered now is why. Michael Usher, National 9 News.
Queensland police have tracked down the driver of a van wanted after the fatal hit-run accident.
Good evening, Narelle Matlin with ABC News. A day of startling developments in Australia's biggest murder hunt. The Special Police Task Force set up to investigate the 7 backpacker killings in the Belanglo State Forest has made a series of arrests. 3 people have been charged with offences including armed hold-up, deception and drug-related matters. Hundreds of police were involved in a string of dawn raids, and throughout the day, police have been searching for more evidence.
Just after dawn, a series of raids in Sydney's west. Police swooping on this suburban home.
I looked out the front. I saw another car pull up out the front, and a fellow was on the grass out the front of his house. Had his hands cuffed behind his back and a gun pointed at his head.
The 50-year-old road worker was taken to Campbelltown Police Station for questioning. Police taking possession of a number of items. But after several hours, they announced these charges.
1 man has been arrested and charged with armed hold-up and discharging a firearm in connection with that offence. That offence occurred on the 25th of January 1990 in an area south of Berrima. He is currently bail refused.
In the Southern Highlands, 2 others have been charged with firearm, drug and deception offences. The dawn raid was carried out by officers from Task Force Air, set up last October after the remains of 7 backpackers were discovered in the Belanglo State Forest. Today's arrest shocked residents from the street where the man lived at Eaglevale on Sydney's west.
He's a really nice bloke.
The man shared the house with his sister. His girlfriend was questioned by police. Locals said weeks of police activity suddenly made sense.
Any time of the day, nearly you could go up there and there'd be a car parked and there'd be 1 or 2 men in there or whatever.
It's understood the MacArthur area has been under surveillance for at least 3 months. A white plumbing van was seen frequently in this street. Police told residents that it and the many low-flying helicopters were part of an important police investigation.
The home of the arrested man's brother was also searched and its occupants questioned. The garage was also inspected. Those charged will appear in court tomorrow morning.
Detectives from Task Force Air staged a series of carefully planned raids in 7 locations. Police scoured the Southern Highlands, targeting Bargo, Buxton and Hilltop, all in the vicinity of the notorious Belanglo Forest.
At Hilltop, the police investigation took on painstaking proportions. A search for possibly more shallow graves and any clues a suspected backpacker killer may have left behind. But police stress so far there have been no significant discoveries. Throughout the day, a coachload of police combed a site which they'd raided armed with a search warrant at dawn. 1 person was taken away for questioning. Leaving little to chance, like much of the investigation, sniffer dogs were used. Half a kilometre away, a heavy police presence, they moved in on this house this morning, excavating much of the front yard and late this afternoon seizing guns and other property. Neighbours say the people who'd been living here kept to themselves.
We've seen a man in there with 2 small children, but in the last couple of weeks there's been 2 or 3 guys there.
Just 6 months ago, police weren't discounting the possibility of finding more bodies in the Belanglo Forest. The search area was widened, the reward doubled. Today's massive search is just north of the Belanglo Forest. It's believed police may have been acting on a tip-off, that of a 25-year-old English backpacker who told of an experience back in 1990.
John Hewson has lost some of his key backers.
The 50-year-old has not been charged over the 7 backpacker murders. I understand Task Force Air is gathering evidence to confront him with. In the 7 months since the last set of remains was recovered from Belanglo Forest near Barrow, senior police have carried out an exhaustive nationwide search for the Ruger rifle used on murdered British backpacker Caroline Clark. I'm told the firing mechanism from a .22 caliber Ruger was found at the Eagle Vale house in Sydney's west. The task force will now take the place apart in a bid to find the rifle that matches the mechanism they've recovered. If successful, the rifle will be test-fired for a ballistics check with the 10 bullets recovered from the grave of Caroline Clark. Scientific police today saw 50-year-old's 4-wheel drive Jackaroo with the Crime Stoppers sticker on the back. His truck, with the side shutter padlocked, remained in the street while his Harley-Davidson motorcycle was covered with a sheet at the back. Sightseers watched police throughout the day. You can imagine the reaction in this quiet street in Sydney's outer western suburbs as heavily armed State Protection Group police crawled through gardens to surround the house. Some residents, still in their pyjamas, hurried outside to see the suspect lying face down on his front lawn with a gun at his head.
Then another van pulled up and the hoop, I don't know what they were, if they were TRG or whatever, but they had big shields and pump-action guns. They ran in there.
The brother and the sister lived there together. They were friendly, nice people.
For several months, undercover police have had the house under surveillance from a distant hill.
We didn't know whether they were police or whether they were criminals looking over houses to see if they could rob them or not.
Teams of detectives raided 10 other locations, 2 interstate, interviewing relatives and friends of the arrested RTA employee. I understand that in one raid they recovered a small tent allegedly owned by one of the murdered backpackers and other equipment. Late this afternoon, a rifle and samurai sword were taken into Campbelltown Police. Another rifle was seized during a swoop on one of several properties at Hilltop near Mittagong. A woman there was taken away with her children for questioning. And dozens of boxes of ammunition, a bow and arrows were carried to a truck from the same property. Close to 200 police were bussed into the area, and others scouring bushland near Belanglo Forest uncovered some backpacks thought to the murder victims, whose relatives are being kept informed of developments. Harry Potter, 10 News.
It's almost 2 years since the first bodies were found in New South Wales' Belanglo State Forest, sparking one of the biggest police investigations in Australian history. Since, 7 bodies have been recovered from the area, all of them backpackers. While there were striking similarities in the way they died, the killer left few clues.
It was here in the Belanglo State Forest on the New South Wales Southern Highlands that police first came to believe they had a serial killer on their hands.
I think it's fair to say that given that we now have 7 bodies recovered, and notwithstanding that we don't know the cause of death in the present case, that we do have a serial killer.
The body found buried in shallow graves, loosely covered with vegetation. The first to be uncovered, British backpackers Caroline Clark and Joanne Walters. They'd gone missing from a King's Cross hostel in 1992. 5 months later, their bodies were discovered by a man collecting firewood. But it wasn't until almost a year later that the worst fears of police were realised when they found the skeletons of Melbourne couple Deborah Everest and James Gibson. It was almost 4 years after they went missing. The police searched one, and a month later the remains of 21-year-old German tourist Simon Schmidl were uncovered. Within days, 2 more bodies were found. They were German uni students Gabor Norgebauer and Anja Habschild. All the victims had been stabbed to death, and one had also been shot. Lyndall Davies, 10 News.
Victorian police have charged a 15-year-old youth with a stabbing in the state's east. 49-year-old Anne-Marie Taylor was found with stab wounds.
Investigating the state's backpacker murders. The man was held last night in the Campbelltown police cells after his arrest at nearby Eagle Vale. He was taken to court early this morning, tight security. Members of the police task force also arrived at the court. 2 other men arrested in separate raids at Hilltop near Bowral in the Southern Highlands face firearm and drug charges in Mossvale next month. This morning's court appearance follows the biggest police operation in New South Wales history. The long investigation into the serial killings of Belanglo State Forest, Australia's worst mass case, culminated in yesterday's raids.
Through the night, a constant stream of police vehicles arrived at Campbelltown Police Station, bringing hundreds of items of evidence from several properties of Sydney, including rifles and a number of backpacks. After a 6-month investigation, the task force struck yesterday with raids across Sydney's southwest and the Southern Highlands. But the focus was this house at Eagle Vale near Campbelltown. Heavily armed officers from the State Protection Group storming in just after dawn. For hours, detectives interviewed the 49-year-old owner before he was taken to Campbelltown Police Station and charged.
1 man has been arrested and charged with armed hold-up and discharging a firearm in connection with that offence. That offence occurred on the 25th of January 1990.
That incident allegedly involved a British backpacker being held at gunpoint near Berrima, not far from the Belanglo State Forest. The arrested man is a former truck driver. Neighbours describe him as easygoing and friendly. News of the breakthrough flashed around the world.
Police in Australia are questioning a 49-year-old man in connection with the murder of 7 backpackers, including 2 British girls.
It was the delivery of the bodies of Caroline Clark and Joanne Walters that sparked Australia's biggest murder investigation. For Caroline's father, it's still too early to hope the agony is over.
I'm very cautious in it because there's, as far as I can understand, there's no direct link between what he's been arrested for and the involvement with our girls.
It's 4.5 years since the first of 7 backpackers disappeared as they hitchhiked south out of Sydney. Just 6 months ago, the last bodies were found in the forest that were known as the Killing Fields. After the remains of the British girls were uncovered, it was a year before another chance discovery, this time 2 backpackers from Melbourne, James Gibson and Deborah Everest. Once police knew for certain they were chasing a serial killer, a task force was formed, 300 police drafted into the search, and a $250,000 reward offered. Within a month, another 3 bodies were found, German backpackers Simone Schmidl, Gabor Neugebauer and friend Anja Habschied, bringing the grisly total to 7. Jeff Bruce, 11 AM.
Both John Hewson and Alexander Downer claim to have the numbers for this afternoon.